Morning and happy Sunday morning. This is the Paranormal Weekend Morning Brew Show on your Sunday edition. I am Nighthawk, one of your hosts, and we are about to get into the thick of swimming in the ocean and swimming in the lakes. And we're going to start off with the megalodon. And then from there, who knows? Maybe we'll get into whatever you want to. It doesn't matter to me. So this show is about you. So let's get into the warnings and stuff here. The FBI warning is a federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, and exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, video discs under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This is called Fair Use Act and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe upon the copyright under Section 17 USC subsection 107 of the Fair Use Act. Okay. That being read, let me adjust my mic here a little bit. And we'll pull up the next one, and I get to use my radio voice. Thank God I got a radio voice. I certainly got a radio face, that's for sure. Anyways, this series presents information based in part on theory and conjecture. The producer's purpose is to suggest some possible explanations, but not necessarily the only ones, to the mysteries we will examine. Okay, what mysteries they are. Now, let's see here. Let me put something else up as we open up our minds and this I thought was very interesting. Look where the megalodon is on this chart. It's not really the biggest thing that's in the ocean, is it? No, I don't think so. I think there's a lot of things that might possibly be out there that are bigger than the megalodon. Yeah. How'd you like to be a offshore fisherman and pick up one of them monsters? Good Lord Almighty. I can't even pronounce half those names. Anyway, the megalodon, fully grown size, is really much undetermined by science, but they estimate between 6 to 8 feet. Okay, now that's not to say they can get 200 feet or more. Okay, we don't know really. Okay, with a bite radius of between 7.5 feet and 10 feet. Man, that's like a one-story building. Okay. This, coupled with its ability to swim as fast as its modern counterparts, the great white sharks, Jaws, okay, a distant cousin of the megalodon, is a formidable. It makes it a formidable predator, if not the top apex predator of its day, with the ability to cut a full-grown whale almost in half with one single bite. You don't want to be swimming with this monster in the ocean. Okay. Otherwise, you may have a watery nightmare or water something else, one of the two. So I'm going to bring my brother Dennis on, and I got some really good things to pop up on the screen today. I did a lot of research last night, and that's why I'm late this morning. So I'm going to bring Dennis on.
William, something that big could eat you and never know it.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think of the shark in the movie Jaws, okay, and how big the bite radius on that thing was. But that's nothing compared to this. Is a humongous bite radius. This is something that is really unheard of in today's time. I mean, look at that picture,
I've got
Dennis. That's so formidable.
uh, I've got a megalodon shark tooth around here somewhere, and it's a baby tooth. It's about so big. That's a baby tooth. Uh, I wouldn't want to see. There's sort of one of the baby teeth. They had bigger teeth than that. You're talking about monsters. You're talking about real monsters here when you talk about the megalodon and the other types of sea creatures that once roamed the oceans and may still do, for all we know. There's been a lot of reports just recently of these strange shadows being seen in the sea that would only be in the shape of huge sharks. It would make the great white shark look like a tadpole.
Yeah, they had that one sighting off the Gulf Coast of Mexico, where it was longer than a school bus.
Yeah, that's that's scary to think about. And there have been great white sharks that have been caught. Think about this. This is relative in size too. They have been cut them up. They would cut them open and find 55-gallon drums in there, where they would swallow 55-gallon drums. Think about that. Like I said, they could eat you and never know it. They never know they eat you.
Yeah.
When you run into something like that, you're way outgunned. I don't care what you got. You got a problem. Definitely.
The scary thing is too, Dennis. The scary thing is too that with the graphics, the first picture I had up here, let me put it back up here. It wasn't the biggest thing in the ocean. It was actually quite small compared to some of the others. I mean, it's actually quite small compared to some of the others. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how big. Yeah, it's just amazing how big some of these creatures were. I mean, we never really put it in perspective. Okay, that these things were that big swimming around in these oceans.
Look at the basilsaurus, which is a whole lot bigger than the megalodon. Look at the basilsaurus. That thing looks like some kind of a nightmare of a whale. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah,
it's absolutely amazing. It really is.
Well, William, we've talked about this before on other shows when we did about giants. When we talked about giants, it seems that everything back in prehistoric times was big. Look at the dragonflies that were the size of hawks and eagles. Dragonflies. Think about that. I mean, everything was just huge and big back then, and we talked about that attribute with Bigfoot. The further north you get, the bigger he gets. That's a prehistoric thing. That's a prehistoric thing. So when you go back in prehistoric times, you're talking about the real monsters. In that respect, they were some very scary looking creatures, and they still may exist in certain parts of the world. The dinosaurs are supposed to be seen in the African Congo. The Mobimbe, I think is his name. Is more like a sauropod, which is sort of like a brontosaurus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mobimbe.
Yeah, the Mobimbe. It looks to me like there could be pockets of these things that still exist somewhere in the world. It would surprise me a bit. I mean, that's not that far fetched, especially the ocean like we talked about last night. The unfathomable ocean. There's plenty of room for something like that. Yeah, look at that. look at that poor guy in the canoe there, dugout, whatever.
Yeah, and that bird that's been spotted too. So yeah,
That's what
just,
they used to, the whalers. The whalers used to talk about the whales, William. So they could bring a ship in too and pick their teeth with the oars. They were big enough to do whatever they wanted to. They're the kings of the ocean. They get things done. Nobody can, like the lions in the jungle and all that. They're the kings of the ocean. And don't get me started on the
yep, they
kraken.
certainly are.
The kraken is a very interesting thing too. The kraken.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say hello to a few people on here. Tracy's watching.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tamara. Good morning, Karen, Stephen, Tombstone, Scott, BDD Warrior. there's a mouthful if you can't talk first thing in the morning. Let's see, Primal make sure I get everybody covered. Let's see. I was the first one on that. They deserve to get the star next to their pin it to the top. There we go. First one on the show to actually make a comment. Thank you very much, Primal Cry. It's much needed. Yeah, the megalodon hung of something that big, Dennis. I mean, and when you're not really the biggest thing out there, I mean, even the squid on that chart was bigger than the megalodon, and squid.
We have clues to that, and we have clues to that in folklore and legend, William. Look at what the Bible calls the Leviathan. What the heck was that? We don't really know what that was talking about at that time. The Leviathan was a huge creature of some sort, and they knew what a whale was. They didn't call it a whale. They knew what a whale. Jonah and the whale. Remember that? This was the Leviathan. This thing was huge. And I think it sounded more like you might say would be the typical sea monster, kind of thing, evidently. But you got clues back in history to these things and the sightings. Some of the sightings of, like, even Columbus saw, and reported on some of his voyages of some of these weird things that we've seen. It's not, like I say, what we're talking about here could be very possibly be true. No doubt about it.
Yep. Yep.
Morning,
BDD Warrior. I apologize, Warrior, for losing our channel, but we're back. We're back. I did sneaky that some of us podcasters have to do, so it's just something that we go through because we. But we're back. Yeah, viewer, we'll get. Alrighty. Look at the whale shark. Okay, the whale shark. It's getting to feet, 25, 30 feet in length, maybe even more in some cases. And think of that thing with its mouth opened up, just coming at you. And it doesn't even look like a great white or a megalodon with the teeth. It's got the frill, kind of teeth, the frill. So, even that would be here.
Well, yeah, killer whales.
But
The killer
you know,
whales are very fearsome looking things. Those killer whales, I wouldn't want to run into one of those. They're not as big as a megalodon. They're not even sometimes as big as the great white shark. But even the killer whales can be, something to be reckoned with. Uh, so you've got a lot of things out in the ocean that can kill you. That's for sure. You're right. That's what we said the other day. There's more things out in the water to kill you than there really are on land, per se. Take into account snakes and spiders and different animals that can kill you. It's just about as bad in the sea. You got things that can get rid of you in a hurry. Look at the very famous legend and the story of Moby Dick, the great white whale, who was supposed to be much bigger than other whales. And that's like he said a very interesting thing about Moby Dick. He said, "Can a whale come up out of the water?" And he said, "I've seen them come up out of the water and come down on a ship like a mountain." So they can do what other fish can do. That's the interesting thing. They can jump out of the water. They can do other things that regular fish. So that makes them even more doubly dangerous, even though their size is one thing. Their attributes as killers.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Good to see you on here.
That's very true, Joe. There could be anything out there. Well, we know. Like we've talked about the underground.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unexplored to this world. This world is not even 1/10 explored. Although we were lied about that back when we were in school, everything's been found, we've explored everything. That's a lie. Not 1/10 of this world has been explored.
Just like the Earth being a globe is a. I wonder how much feedback I'm going to get from that.
But what we said about we were talking about last night about the mystical qualities of water, whether it be the ocean or lakes, and I mentioned the dryads and the water nymphs. The dryads, of course, are on the land, but they're usually situated near water because they were actually spirits, tree spirits. The dryads actually were at the beginning the spirits of oak trees. And, but oak trees always love water. They go after water like willow trees. So the dryads were the spirits of trees. But the water nymphs were very much like the water babies we talked about. So you got a lot of interesting myths and legends connected with the ocean, the lakes, the water. The pterodactyls report from U.S. Africa, mostly in the warmer climate. Petrodactyls, yeah. Look at the size of that thing.
Yeah, it's just amazing. It's just literally amazing how big of a shark the thing was. I mean, and honestly, I mean, it may have a couple more gill slits than maybe a great white has because of its size, and the tip of its back tail fin is more like a spear than a great white. That's really the only two differences I can really see separating it from its distant relative, the great white. Other than maybe the dorsal fin being back a little bit further from the side fins.
And a slightly different shape too. A little bit different shape with a regular great white shark. That's scary looking.
Yeah, that shows you just who would win.
These things come from the age of dinosaurs. And if they still exist, then that shows you, without a doubt, that there can be holdovers from the age of the dinosaurs. We know that. Look at I think the coelacanth fish that was thought to be extinct for millions of years, and they found it alive. We said earlier. It could be anything down there. How would you like to see that? How would you like to be swimming in the ocean and look back and see that thing at you? With the mouth open like that, like a thing. You could look at that. Look at the size of those jaws. You could fit a small ship. Would fit in there easy. No problem.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're talking that could practically bite a whale in half. So, I mean, that's a 10-foot bite radius there, 10 foot. Yes, for 1940, off the coast of Africa, in 1940, this was seen. Now,
I've seen that photo before. That's very, very interesting. Look at that, 64 foot, and that would make it around 80 foot long, probably, if you were to pull it up. 80 foot. Think about that.
Exactly. That's a PT boat, a German PT boat next to it there.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at it, you know, they're looking at it like they can't believe this. So, yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, getting back to the picture of the tooth again, you know, that and that's not even to say that's the largest tooth found in existence right now, because they're finding them all over the bottom of the ocean now. And they found one that seemed to be a little bit more, how should I say, present day, with the enamel on the tooth still and all that. So, you know, it's not far-fetched that some of these things may still exist. So it really isn't.
Well,
you know, and you think about all the people.
I wish I could show you the megalodon tooth I have. It doesn't even look that old. That looks very old there. I mean, that looks very prehistoric. The one I've got is just blackened, more or less. So I've often thought that just looking at it, probably it's not as old as some of these so-called fossils that are found. And it makes you wonder if they're not that old, that, you know, they're not being deposited at the same time as the prehistoric days. You got something that may be around 300 or 400 years old. It still could be out there, you know?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Because we don't even these megalodons lived. You know, we really don't. You know, how can you judge that? You can't count the rings like you would on a tree. See how old the remains of one are. You know, because they're not remains other than teeth. It's just like any prehistoric creature that you see in the museum. 90% of them are made up bones that the paleontologist thinks, oh, well, the bone had to have been this shape to go here, you know?
Well, so, and another thing,
we're not
William,
even sure.
They don't tell you about the museum tours. A lot of that bone or that skeleton is man-made. They have to fill in some of the missing bones. You know, so
yeah, 90% of them are man-made.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about the prehistoric days. There's a whole lot of conjecture on that, on the paleontologists and all that. They conjecture a lot because they do not absolutely know for sure. You know, a lot of this stuff. They're only guessing. A lot of it's a guesstimate, you know. And like a lot of these so-called dinosaur bones you see in museums are not fully the full skeleton. So you're not getting the real big picture here. You're not getting the real true picture because a lot of this is conjecturing. The same thing with these things, like that tooth you see there. The conjectures of a lot of that. What size tooth? Look at the size of it compared to the human hand. That's a baby tooth right there, probably. You know, that's not one of the big teeth, probably. If you're looking at something that's that size and equivalent to that, like the footprints that supposedly have been found and stuff like that, look at the Bigfoot, you know. Why he's called Bigfoot, you know. The bigger the thing, the more imprint it makes. If you got, baby teeth that size, you're talking about a
Yeah.
huge creature. You know.
I revert back to the 1940 photograph for an example. I mean, that there gives you the best example of how this thing really was. You're just talking 4 feet from the top of the fin to the tail.
From the dorsal on out, you gotta add about 20. You gotta add about 20 more feet probably to that. So you're looking at around 80 foot probably. Yeah.
That's just amazing. That's just absolutely amazing to me. It really, really is. To think that something like that could be swimming in our ocean still, to this very day. It definitely doesn't make me swimming in the ocean. I feel sorry for all them surfers out there. I mean, anybody with a scuba diving recreational activity or a surfing activity or just kayaking in general in the oceans, I mean, that's terrifying, knowing that there's something that big that could be lurking in the right below you. It really is.
You wouldn't be much of a tadpole of them, like I said. You wouldn't be much of a meal.
Yeah. Yeah, would they even know that you were swallowed? I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't even think they'd realize that they swallowed you. I don't think they would.
They wouldn't know.
And with my luck, with my luck, I'd probably get swallowed, and I'd be in there next to a freaking dinosaur that is still alive. And the dinosaur would eat me first, and then the megalodon would test me. So yeah, that's probably my luck would go.
I would hope if they eat me, William, I get stuck in their throat, choke them a little bit on the way down.
Yeah, it's
North Carolina
amazing.
cryptid.
And we yesterday too. We talked yesterday too, Dennis, about the myths of the mermaid and all that, and water babies, and just not knowing, even in fresh water, Great Lake monsters. We have Ogopogo. We have Chessie. We have Nessie. We have all these lake monsters that are in fresh water. You have bull sharks going all the way up to St. Louis in the Mississippi River before it dried up. Always, so maybe Megalodon has that same ability to go from to freshwater for a period of time.
Well, we do know, William, that in prehistoric times there were freshwater sharks. There were at one time, and still may be for all we know. And a lot of times,
Right.
And I've joked about this. A lot of the lake monsters are really alligators, and I mean, in my book, that's still a monster, really. Some of these huge alligators that people are seeing, 18-foot gators. Come on, that's prehistoric right there, almost. And we do know that the alligators and crocodiles are left over from the prehistoric dinosaur days. So they walked at the feet of dinosaurs. They are still here. Still with us. It's not that far fetched. You couldn't have some stuff in the lakes like that. Every lake, and here's the interesting thing. When I remarked yesterday, it seems like almost every large lake has a legend of a lake monster. Why is that?
Yeah.
The one I've got, Karen, the megalodon tooth I got's about maybe 3 inches, I think. I'd love to find one about 7 or 8 inches. You'd have to mainly dig for megalodon tooth.
You know, I'm a big guy too. Okay, I'm is probably the act of a about 6 inches of a full-grown megalodon, and 7 inches is the largest that was found, apparently, from what Karen says. You know, but that's only the largest one that was found. That's not to say it was the largest tooth out of the megalodon. So,
but if you
that's
look
only
at,
the largest one that was found.
I've got a shark jaw right here. Actually, let me show it for you. This is, of course, off of a baby shark. That's a small shark right there. If you get a chance, but if you notice, as it goes back into the jaw, the teeth get larger. So
Right.
what you're doing, and I would think more than likely, if it loses teeth, it would be the front teeth. So you're looking at the smaller teeth that are being found. I'm just saying, if you're gonna find it that way, the further back in the jaw, the bigger it gets. So that's interesting to note. That's probably where a lot of these teeth are coming from, the front teeth, And of course, I think they can replace their teeth where we can't, but they can. But that's a small shark right there. That's just a baby. And yet, if you'll look at this, my whole hand, arm would go, and look at that. That thing would take my arm off. Okay. That's what you're dealing with. That's what kind of an animal you're dealing with here. Definitely. It's a predator.
Yeah, it's amazing to me.
It's a super predator. I mean, it's like I've often used that anthology, about emotionless killing. Like serial killers have that emotionless look, and that's the way a shark's eye look. I mean, it's going to eat you up. That's what it does. That's what a shark does. You can't blame him for doing that because that's a shark. But you're talking about a number one killing machine on this planet, and that's a shark, because that thing is made to kill, and that's the way it survives.
Sense a drop in blood in the ocean, Dennis, up what? So to have that kind of sensory of blood in the water, it would be an amazing ability to have.
Oh yeah.
It leads me back to the whole. It really, in its time, it was. But looking at the diagram that I had up, it really wasn't the biggest apex predator in the oceans. What's to say some of these other predators aren't what we're seeing when we see big shadows in the water?
Mm-hmm. But that's like, whales, William, have been found. Whales have been found with bites taken out of them. They were much larger than any white shark could have done. There's evidence pointing to the fact that the megalodon shark still exists, a lot more than people realize. If that thing is still out there, like I said, he's king of the ocean. There's nobody going to stop him from doing what he wants to do. Can do whatever he wants to. That is the number one mark of an apex killer. Nothing is above them in the food chain. Everything's below them. And you're part of that food chain too. If you get in the wrong position in the wrong way, you'll end up being part of their dinner. That's an apex killer for you. There's none to bother them, stop them from doing whatever they want to do. And that's the most deadly part of it all. It is the top of its line. Yeah. I think, a megalodon.
Just getting back to some of these fictions here.
A shark like that could easily make a meal out of a T-Rex.
Yeah, I mean, even the bite of a T-Rex doesn't even to a megalodon. You know, this picture here, damn fright. I mean, this thing here makes the freaking great white shark in Jaws look like a guppy. You know?
Yep.
I mean,
yeah. I put it this way. I'd rather, and before I go up against that, I'd rather go up against the shark from Jaws. You might have a better chance. With something like that, you're not going to have much of a chance. Yeah. But you're talking real monsters here.
Here's between the megalodon and a great white, and let's comment this current pool.
That's like I was talking just recently, about that poor lady that got killed in, I think it's Florida. She's out walking her dog by a lake there or a pond, and this alligator came out and grabbed. He was going after the dog, but he got the woman instead and drug her back down the water and killed this poor lady. The dog got away. I think that dog is traumatized for life after that incident. But they found the lady's body later, and they captured the alligator. He wasn't even that big of an alligator, really. He was maybe around 12 foot or something. He wasn't as big as compared to some others. But just think about that a minute. There you are walking by a pond, not thinking about anything like that, and something comes out on you. And I want to tell you something. I've been in a situation where I've been around gator slides, okay? That's the thing they make going down in the water. You don't feel good about being there because you know what? These things are fast. You see them on TV. They look slow and they're moving along. That's not true. These things can be fast. So you take a look at that megalodon and how fast, incredibly fast, in the water that thing could be. That's scary when you think about that. We don't really take into account the speed of these animals.
I keep on reverting better.
If I'd have been on that ship, I wouldn't have felt really good looking at that thing, knowing what it could probably do to that ship if it wanted to. They probably had that same thought too.
That PT boat there's. Yeah, they probably had every bit of their weapons. You can see the gun on the deck of the ship there being looks like it's not even manned, but they're all just staring at it.
Yeah,
like they can't believe that it's there. So
it's kind of like
that's scary.
They might be saying, "Hey, nobody make a sound, okay? Nobody makes noise." We don't want to attract this thing's attention.
Yeah.
But that's what you said about what you said earlier about the blood in the water, and we said that last night about the mermaids. If there were mermaids, they would communicate telepathically because of the water, and there may be a sonar type thing to it. But we do know dolphins, communicate with sonar, and so do whales. So it would not be that far-fetched that the sharks do not do that way too. So they would communicate. So you could have. So here's the scary thing to think about: if they communicate that, hey, I got some prey here, and some other sharks as big show up, you really got a problem. You not just got one megalodon; you got several of them on your hands. They're kind of like very much like ants. If you've ever seen ants, they'll find some food source. All of a sudden, there's a bunch of more ants there with it. They communicate. See, they say, "Hey, I got something here." Well, all animals do that. That includes things in the ocean. You know.
Right. Right. Yeah. I just, I can't believe that the bite radius of that megalodon, and that's just one of the jaws that they estimate. I mean, that's just imagine. Can you imagine just swimming in the ocean, having that come up underneath you and just gobble you up like that?
And
It,
look at the look
it's
at the look at the size. Look, William, at the size of the teeth compared to the size of the man's head.
yeah,
Look at that
yeah,
comparison.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. They are this. They're every bit of 12 inches long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. Yeah,
And some sharks can kind of dislocate their
me.
jaws a little bit too in order to swallow bigger things, kind of like a snake can do. They have those attributes too. They can kind of, if you notice the way the jaws are
Mhm.
made, you know, they're elastic like. You know what I'm saying? They can expand if needed. If you were to
Yeah,
set out to
that is
design,
ginormous. You are right.
if you were to set out to design the perfect killer, that's him right there, the megalodon, or something similar to it like that in the
Hmm.
water. Nothing could surpass that, definitely. But there's been a
When
lot
my
of stories
son and husband went fishing, they went on the friends.
like I mentioned the Kraken earlier. Ever since men and they put to sea, there's been stories of these things told of what they saw and the things they encountered. And we know a lot of sea tales, a lot of far fetched things. The fish was a lot bigger than it really was supposed to be. But you have to wonder about some of these accounts that you read, especially in some of the ancient log books. Like I said, going back to the days of Magellan and Columbus and Drake and all these other explorers and the things they saw. They were in some dangerous territory. These men had some very brave hearts to go out into something in unknown territory like that, not knowing what they face. That's why
Right.
on many of the ancient maps, they used to have a little warning on there. Beyond this point, there be dragons. You know, you didn't know what you were going to run into when you went out on the ocean, and that's still true to this day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely amazing. It really is. Um, Now, you get into a lot of, like we talked about yesterday, a lot of the gigantism in species that flares up occasionally. Even in humans, it flares up. Um, for instance, the young man at the age of 23 or 24, was 8 foot 4 inches tall. Um, which is incredibly huge for a human. Um, you get that in other species too, but it seems like in other species it happens more often. Um, that the deeper you go, the bigger the predator is. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you have to
Yeah.
really wonder what is down there in the deep dark trenches.
Well, like we talked
The
about
trench over
yesterday,
by
William,
Japan.
the shark is not a mammal like the whale. The whale has to come up for air eventually. Sooner. The shark doesn't. He can stay on the bottom. He can
Mm-hmm.
stay down as low as he
Yeah.
wants, because that's how he stays alive. Like you said, they got to keep constantly moving to have the water, the oxygen going through the gills. A
Mm-hmm.
whale is at a disadvantage when it comes to that, because the whales eventually got to surface. But the shark doesn't, and that's a very interesting point you're making. the lower and deeper down, the bigger this thing is. As big as it is, could hide better, of course, and be lower down instead of being higher up in the ocean. It would make it less seen, and less encountered than the whales and stuff,
Right. Right. Now, Scott says that he's got a prehistoric petrified shark's tooth, and the crazy thing is, it's still serrated and sharp.
Yeah.
So yeah, that shows you right there that that shark's teeth are nothing to be messed with. So.
Oh yeah, and they that's a perfect design. I have to wonder a lot of the time. People say, oh, something accidentally happened, evolution, all this stuff. But to look at the perfect design of the shark tooth, you cannot think of anything more perfect to use on a predator than that. It's even more than a lion's teeth or a wolf's teeth. The shark tooth is made to do a job and cut and slice much better than any other kind of a tooth. That's just one part of its design. That's amazing to think about. It's almost like there is definitely a plan of design behind these things.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Gracie. That means a lot there. Yeah, if you can give this a thumbs up, I mean, we need all the help we can get to get back to where we were. So subscribe, go to the YouTube, get your friends and family members to subscribe. We want a full subscribership and make them realize we have a voice, what they want. So we have a voice.
Let's get us back up to where we were.
Subscribe,
and we'll get past that, go past that. Yeah.
Right.
That's interesting, Miriam. That's what I was speaking of earlier about the Kraken. The Krakens,
Yeah. And you were talking some stuff too, though, Dennis. Why don't you go over some of the Kraken and the sea nymph type of stuff that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, the Kraken, of course, is described as more of a monstrous octopus-like. And remember what I mentioned the other day about that thing they supposedly encountered in the Antarctic? That I think it's dubbed like organism 57A or something. They don't know what this thing was, but it was an electrified. Think about this a minute now. An electrified octopus that could shoot. Octopus can shoot an ink out. It's like an inky substance that can, they can disappear in it, like they create their own smoke bomb type of thing. But this ink will supposedly paralyze you. And now, if you've ever seen the mouth of an octopus, it looks like a parrot's mouth, like a parrot bird mouth. It's a perfect mouth with which to grab something and eat it. Think about something like that, and you're up against a 20 or 30-foot octopus like that. And if it had electrical tentacles, think about that a minute. My gosh, you're talking about something that's like some out of a science fiction movie. They said this thing was encountered in the Antarctic, and we do know without a doubt, and there have been pictures taken of giant squids and octopus. We've seen that. They do exist, and like we were talking about the megalodon, they're lower down in the ocean. They're lower down. That's why they're not seen so often. But if you can go and do your research and look up and do some Googling on this, you can see all kinds of film and video of some of the strange things that are taken under the water. There's some weird, way out stuff going on down there.
Yeah. I would like to address Miriam here on the alligator in New York type of a thing. Yeah, it is cruel when people get these exotic pets and they get too big for them to contain. Um, but alligators are unique. Alligators are a very unique species of animal. They can survive. Did you know they can survive
Adapt.
in cold weather up to the point of freezing? As long
Yeah.
as
As
their
a matter of fact,
nostrils don't
let,
don't
let,
freeze
let,
over. If their
let me tell you this.
nostrils
Uh,
don't freeze over, then they can breathe.
they will get in the lake and they will, I don't know if you can see this or not, but they'll go up like this, stick their nose out of the water in the lake and freeze. As long as that nose is sticking out of the water and they can live there. Okay. We're talking about
Right.
animals that are made to adapt to circumstances, and that's what makes them survivable. They can adapt. If you do not
Mhm.
adapt, you do not survive. That's just it, you know.
Yep.
And these things, like I said,
Exactly.
they walked at the
Exactly.
feet of dinosaurs. That's how long. And if you could flush one down a commode, think about this a minute, and it ends up in the sewer system, it's not that far fetched that it could not survive down in the sewer systems. And there have been stories told for many years of these things being seen in the sewer systems of New York and Chicago and places like that. You know, and look at the boa constrictor problem they've got now, and the anaconda problem in Florida. People turn these things loose. They're not natural things in Florida. They turn these things loose, and they're surviving. They're thriving, actually.
Right.
So, you know, you gotta look at the intervention of man of humankind in these affairs. Like I said that about the super hog thing, that we talked about the other day, and the killer bees. Whenever man messes around with nature,
Right.
bad things happen. Uh,
Right. Right.
and you
Yeah.
and you
I
don't
mean,
know what. And listen, and think
it,
about this a minute. Think about this a minute. If you want to go, whatever lake you want to go skinny dipping in, some idiot could have released a small baby alligator in that thing, and it may still be at that lake waiting for you to go skinny dipping. Okay.
right. Well, and that makes about all the people that are releasing like the piranhas and stuff in the ponds and the lakes around America. Piranha, they're not a native species to the cold climate, but yet they are
Yeah.
capable of surviving.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been West where people have gone swimming in a pond only to be bitten and torn up these piranha. I mean, take an exotic pet, did not have one, plain and simple. They're children, they're not dogs and cats. They're exotic pets that are wild in nature and deserve your respect. And if you can't respect an exotic pet taken care of, then you need to give it to a zoological society, a zoo preserve, or something that can take care of it.
Yep. Yep. That's true. There's a joke in Australia. That's for our Australian friends. That's one of my favorite jokes. Comes out of Australia. But the guy was fixing to go walk in the lake, and he looks at the guy standing on shore. Are there any crocodiles in this lake? And the guy says, "Oh no, nah, the sharks ate them all." You know. So, so you've got to
Yeah.
respect what you're getting into. You've got to understand that you are part. If you disrupt the chain of nature, to a certain extent, you're going to pay a price for it. Nature is set up to go along a certain trail, a certain way, and when you disrupt that, you cause some big problems. Uh, I've
Okay.
heard a lot about people
Our
taking pet goldfish and throwing them in the lakes, and you got carps. A goldfish is nothing but a carp. But yet they disrupt the whole ecology of that lake. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got to do something. Our chat went a little south here with a couple comments, so I'm gonna have to do something here real quick. Tombstone is refusing to go skinny dipping, which that, and I guess that's in any body of water. So and Miriam said that she knows now why men don't skinny dip as much as women. So I've got to put the parental advisory up in the corner. So just to give the old what for here.
Well, I think I think the men would make a more viable target in the water than the women would, so to speak.
There we go. So right. I'll let
we had that advisory
a couple bit. I'll go back to that parental advice now. So you all can talk all you want in the chat. Now let's try to keep it on a Sunday tone.
Yeah.
Let's remember that it's a Sunday, and that it is, that there are kitties around, and I'm not talking the kind that meow. So let's keep it.
Yeah, just
down
a word of caution, when dealing with large bodies of water. Be careful what you dangle in the water, because the fish could see it different than you might.
Yeah. I think we all as children were naive. But you think about it too, though. We're only taught what the adults in our lives think that they actually know.
Right.
Because think about it. You're being taught by parents that were taught by their parents, and by schools that education had to evolve along with man. Unfortunately, the logical part of education, to where you do the research and the investigating on history, isn't the truth. Okay. It really isn't. It's not the truth. What they teach you in school, what your parents know that they claim are fact, and this is nothing against parents. I'm one myself, but I even question some of the things that I taught my children over the years. Here I was teaching my kids that the earth was round. Little did I know that NASA actually photoshopped those images of a round earth. We don't even have a picture of a round globe of a planet. Okay. We don't.
Well, William, we gotta remember, we learn by example, by seeing other things. But if that example is flawed, then we learn the flaws of that example. That's just the way that goes, unfortunately. Yeah. And you're so very true in the fact is, and what we say on this show so much: do your research, do investigative research. There's different kinds of research. Research, you can just be thumbing through a book and looking at the pretty pictures. That's research too. But real investigative research is when you dive deep into that rabbit hole. You dive deep in there and you start looking at it, deeper and deeper into it, and the connections to it and everything. That's real investigative research. Right. That's the way you need to do it. And that's why we say, don't take that example at face value, because it may be flawed. It may be wrong.
And that's exactly why I have decided that the one show, the one podcast that I really, really enjoy doing is called Into the Red Rabbit Hole. Okay. And it's because we talk and we investigate and we research about subject matter that is questionable at best on its authenticity. And we try to either debunk it or we try to make sense it's true. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we go off the rails a little bit and we get into the whole, real deep state kind of stuff that a lot of the channels, the social media channels, don't want to hear. Okay.
Yeah.
So that
Well,
is
that's
why
why
that's why
that.
Into the Red Rabbit Hole will not be on YouTube anymore. It's going to be
Yeah.
solely on Twitter and Twitch and those other platforms and Facebook.
Well, William, when you go and examine something, when you do actual research, investigative research, when you examine something, you pick apart its bones. Okay, you take it apart. You got to examine it thoroughly, and that's where theory and conjecture comes in. Is it this way or that way? This is one thing I've always went by, one rule in my whole paranormal career, whatever it may have been that I was looking into. You first must prove what it isn't, what it is not, before you can prove what it is. That's the way you got to look at it, and you got to get it out in the open. You got to examine it. Like I said, you got to pick those bones apart to understand what it is you're really looking at. If you don't, if you just take it at face value, you're going to believe anything. It comes down the line, and you're going to be very wrong.
Right.
You're going to be very wrong, and you don't want to do that. And that's what the Red Rabbit Hole is all about. You pick it apart. You take it and look at it, all the different sides on it, and examine it thoroughly before you make any kind of determination on anything. And you have to leave it open sometimes. You have to say, well, it could be this way and it could be that way, because that's the different subjects. But people don't understand. You're not being absolutely conclusive and saying 100% this is the way it is until you have a true empirical evidence to back that statement up. That's just the way that goes. And people used to say, do you believe in this? Do you believe in that? I said, whoa, no, I believe in the evidence. Okay? That's what I want. The evidence,
Right.
the true evidence of it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I just a lot of the stuff that we're taught growing up is just questionable at the best thing. And it's not the fault of our parents or even our teachers really, because they're basing their knowledge off of what they perceive from science,
Yeah.
from the so it's really not any parent's fault or any fault, what they teach. So we're trusting places like NASA, the U.S. government, and stuff like that give us the correct. So, anyways, that's another show altogether. But getting back into the meat of the bones of it is what other water mythical creatures, will say, have you involved your research into, Dennis?
Well, one of my favorite things, of course, it's folklore. I go back into the folklore of these things and all that. And you go back into the tales of King Arthur and the Lady of the Lake. Remember that? The Lady of the Lake. And when they threw Excalibur back in the lake, she came out and grabbed it and took it back down. She was basically a water nymph or dryad. Now, dryads, the reason they're called dryads, I said earlier, is they were the spirits of trees. They were the woodland spirits, the fae, you might want to call them, the fairies. But then you also had some attached to the water, like the Lady of the Lake and the water nymphs, and like you mentioned the other day, the water babies, which are very same kind of a creature that we're talking about here. And then you have the Irish legends of the Selkies. The Selkies are really nothing but mermaids. That's what they are.
Mhm.
And the Kelpies, which are water spirits that can take on the forms of different things and fool you. They can drown you. They look like a beautiful woman, and yet they lure you in the water and drown you. Or man, if it's a woman, they can look like a handsome man. Uh, Most of the time, it's a woman. Sorry about that, girls. Anyway, that's the different legends you have with the water. Not only just the kraken, the water, the sea monsters, and all these other things. You have actual entities, elemental entities that are connected supposedly to the water. And what is the water? The water is another element, of the earth.
Mhm.
Who do you think the
Yeah.
Lady of the Lake was? Who do you
Yeah.
think the Lady of the Lake was, William?
Who do I think the Lady of the Lake was, or what do I think the Lady of the Lake was?
What was she?
I think like a lot of native folklore talks about the water spirits being in the water and being collectors of things, collectors of people, collectors of objects. I think that the Lady of the Lake possibly could have been just a water spirit, a protector per se, or a guardian of the lake.
Elemental.
We have,
she would be
yeah,
an elemental.
yeah, exactly. And, I think that, with my culture, with my people's culture, and all the other indigenous cultures around the world, we believe that these guardians of the lakes and the waters and the waterways are meant to be respected. That's why whenever I go to a river or a lake or even the ocean, I'll lay tobacco on the water to say thank you, for being giving respect to the water. So there's people don't understand that so much in our environment is connected to the spirit world, and the spirit world is connected to us. Okay, a lot of people walk their life with blind, not figuring out that connection, not realizing how sacred that connection is. And a lot of people have lost that connection, and that's why they can't believe in things anymore. They can't imagine things anymore. Okay,
And a lot
they just don't
of
have
these
it within them.
William, had that connection. Look at the Irish and the Celtic peoples. They and the fairy trees, the dryads I spoke of earlier. That goes back to Greek mythology, by the way. With the spirits of trees, the woodland spirits. If you disrespected a tree, they didn't like that. And if you cut a tree down, you kill the dryad. That was the spirit of it. And the acorn was considered a holy object because that was the seed of life. And you had the fairy trees that to this day you will see them in fields in Ireland where they tie the ribbons. They bring an offering to that tree, by the way, and their offering is not tobacco like your people, but it's a ribbon of cloth, usually red or something like that. They would tie to this tree. That's an offering. And they would plow their fields around these trees. They wouldn't touch that tree. It was a sacred tree. Look at the Druids. They worship trees. They thought the spirits, like the dryads I mentioned earlier, were spirits of the trees, especially the oak tree was supposed to be the greatest tree of all, the mighty oak. They had the power of the earth in it. It had the power of nature, and that's what they worshiped. That was their thing. So they had that connection to the land that, like your people did, that very strong connection that we have unfortunately lost over the years. But that was there, definitely. And the water was the same way. Without water, you couldn't live. Water was a sacred thing. And, there used to be a ceremony. There used to be a ceremony in ancient Egypt where they would go out once a year and pour blessed oil in the Nile River. because they depended upon the Nile so much. They would bless the Nile River and pour this oil in there. It was a big ceremony. It was a big, like Christmas is for us. That was a big thing to them, because that water was worship. Because without that, they would die.
Yeah.
That was it. You know.
Yeah, look at some of the cultural connections to the supernatural when it comes to water in that area of the world where the Nile is and the Euphrates and all that. With the Euphrates being claimed that in the Bible there was 4 angels that are locked underneath it, underneath the water's perpetual flow, not to be released until the end of times.
Exactly.
And here lately, they have been talking about how the Euphrates has been drying up. And now they're starting to hear all kinds of weird, strange sounds coming from beneath the dried riverbed of the Euphrates River that they think are these angels that are locked underneath there.
Yeah, they say they sound like, the groans and moans of someone in prison. It may be coming the time soon when that prison will be open. That river has a lot of prophecy in the Bible. That's where the kings of the east will come across that river for Armageddon. You're talking about some very dire prophetic stuff there connected to that river. And look at, like I said the other day about the book of Genesis talks about the river of life that flows by the throne of God, the river of life. So you've got water is the cradle of life. Even, the Bible recognized that. Jesus had a very interesting anthology with water. The Spirit being an ever-flowing water was the Spirit. It was, that connection to it. So it's the water is a very spiritual connection to it.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't get baptized in sand, do you? You get baptized in water.
Yeah, exactly. And as soon as mankind goes back to realizing that connection to the water and to the environment, there really is no hope for mankind. As long as they seek to destroy themselves and destroy the earth, the creatures that walk and swim upon it and fly upon her, it's going to be that world. And I think it's DA. It's either DA or Robbie or somebody. What's really out there just said that we are in the end times for sure. I'll put that up. And it's true. I do believe we are in the end times.
What you're saying is very true, William. What you're saying is very true about. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
No, I was just going to say that, very, very true. I believe wholeheartedly that we are in the end times.
Oh, yeah.
But we have all been at the precipice of the end times. At the end times, we've always on that sword's blade that we could fall one way, and typically mankind falls to the worst side of the blade. It's just the history states it,
And one of the signs of that is that we lose our connection to Earth. What was man formed out of? Formed out of the dust of the earth. That's our connection to the earth. That's our Mother Earth. And when we lose that connection, as we've lost that. There's a very interesting biblical passage, and God said this himself out of his own mouth. It said, "He shall destroy them that destroy the earth." The earth is sacred to God. The earth, is God. That belongs to him. And we were given to be custodians of it. And we've really messed our job up. we've really failed in that respect, and we're destroying the earth. Look at how we treat it, and how we've disregarded that connection we have. From the dust thou art, to the dust thou shalt return.
Yeah.
But we've lost
Robbie's
that connection.
Robbie's in the chat.
That's a spiritual thing. Yeah, spiritual thing.
Yeah, Dennis, Robbie's in the chat right now from DAX Machine. What's Really Out There podcast, which is phenomenal, by the way. Even though they had us on there yet, or had me on there, I don't know if they've had you on there. But just saying it, Robbie. I'm just putting it out, Robbie, old pal, old buddy. Anyways, the whole idea and concept of mankind almost seems like a test to me. Seems like a test that mankind is losing. Okay. We pollution were, sea life that we had in of years is coming to the surface. Okay. Megalodons, giant squid, the coelacanth, we pollute it, we desiccate in it, some of you all have done that in the ocean, okay? Like you haven't peed yourself in the ocean. Everybody's done it, okay? It's like amazing the disrespect, we have for Mother Earth,
That's like I said the other day, William, about the worst thing that mankind has ever come up with are these plastic grocery bags. They're talking about outlawing them, and I hope they do. Really, eventually, we need to go back to paper or bring your own bag kind of thing, because they're polluting the ocean. They say there are tons of this stuff ending up in the ocean every day. There's they say that equals 1 million elephants are lost in the ocean, and they're finding whales and dolphins with these bags inside of them, strangling them to death. We're destroying our earth constantly, day after day after day, piling on more destruction. Where's it going to end? If the ocean dies, we die. That's just it. That's the point. If the ocean dies, we die. That's going to be it. Unless we move to another planet, that's going to be it.
Yeah. Oh, leave it to my wife.
Robbie.
Telling Robbie.
Don't listen to her, Robbie.
Robbie, just ignore me. Just ignore Nighthawk. Just ignore the man behind the curtain, Robbie. Just ignore him.
Don't listen to him, Robbie.
Oh my God, that's funny. That's hilarious. Oh wow. Yeah. Oh boy, I needed that. Thank you, honey. Anyways, I thought now. Oh wow, we're already on an hour and a half mark. That's amazing how that time just flies by. But the subject is to really get into, and I think we need to end this on yep, here's the positive note coming right now. Here's the positive note right. There's the positive note right now.
There he is. Yeah. Hey, buddy. How you doing, buddy? Okay. Oh, he's wide open today. He's wide open.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. You gonna say hi? Gonna say okay. You gonna say hi? Say hi. Say hi. Not gonna?
Hey, Jacob. Hey, Jacob. What you doing, Jacob? Oh, he's giving out the kisses this morning. Who's giving out the kisses this morning?
Yeah, the kisses are like, let me down, Dad. I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
And off he goes. Oh. I thought everybody needed today. So, yep, I thought everybody needed that today. So, yeah. It's been a heck of a week. I know everybody's
on the brighter side.
Yeah. I know it's been a difficult week for everybody. I know that out there. It's been a struggle, and we have to fight and claw our way to even survive anymore. But we're here. We're here for you all in the chat. Our Weirdo Warrior family. I don't know what more to say than to say thank you to everybody in the chat. It's one thing to get on here and talk of things that we have no idea what we're talking about, like 50% of the podcasts out there. And that's doing it lightly and politely. That have no idea what they're talking about. Yet they get the number one spots on a lot of these social media sites because they're the most hits, and the most subscribers. And me, like people like like Robbie and myself, you, Dennis, um, Cryptid Huntress, Blondes and Booze, all these awesome podcasts out there don't really get the opportunity to be in that spot on the social media sites they deserve, So that being said, I just want everybody out there to know that we appreciate you all. Your prayers and Steven's family and for Tracy and the family, and for me, have not gone unnoticed. There's, those of you that know us well, that have been on this channel for a while now, know that, and all that, and, Tracy's, medical and my medical conditions and stuff. So we just love the prayers. Okay. It means a lot to us. You all, if Jacob had a godparent, you all in the chat are of Jacob. That's and we can't say thank you enough for all your support that you give and all your love and understanding. Okay. I'm sure Dennis would agree with me that we appreciate each and every one of you. And if there's anything we can do as far as paranormal, please don't hesitate, because between Dennis and I, we probably have almost 100 years worth of paranormal experience, from ghost teachers to UFOs. I mean, you name it, we have it. So just if you need us, let us know. Okay. On that note, Dennis, it's an hour and a half. We're gonna go ahead and cut off of here. I'm gonna let everybody go about their beautiful Sunday. Hopefully, it's warm and sunny and not getting snowed on like it was. So, everybody enjoy your Sunday. Happy birthday to everybody that was born today. From 0 to 106, and if you're 196 going on 197, I want you on the podcast. Okay, because you're a miracle. We have now Kara and I are putting together a podcast coming up in the near future. I think it's the 1st of March, called Indigenous People. So that will be coming on, and the subject is going to be very, very, it's going to go from from the normal theories to the out of the box theories. So it's going to be a very good one. Okay. So we look forward to seeing everybody on that one. That's in March 1st, I believe. I think it's at 8 or 9 p.m. I'll have to double check that. But I'll be posting, information about that on my Facebook pages, so everybody knows. So look out for that. And we are going to get off of here. Go about your day. We love you all very much. Like, heart, and subscribe. Subscribe. Let's out subscribe YouTube so much. Let's show them that they can't keep a good podcast down. Okay.
And Weirdo Warriors, stay united.
Yep. Question everything, everybody. Question everything. And we'll see you on the next show. Be Into the Red Rabbit and Facebook solely, okay? YouTube because of the questionable content. So I'll leave it at that. We will see you all the next pod. Everybody have a great Sunday. Okay. Thank you all very much. God bless. And I'm out. I got that much left. Oh.